Good afternoon. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. We are being webcast. I've gotten the okay from our technical guru to start. So we're going to talk into the microphones, and we will mute our microphones when we're not talking because only one works at a time, according to the technology people, and I always do what the technology people say. So anyway, welcome to the October 17th, 2024 meeting of the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. A link to view this meeting has been provided on the Commission's website. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you to the General Assembly for hosting our meetings this week. Hayden, will you please take a roll call of the commissioners?
Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Griscom. Here. Commissioner Levine. Commissioner Patterson. Commissioner Eddie Smith. Commissioner Lauren Smith. Here. Commissioner Tudor. Here. Commissioner Woodson and Chair Richards.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have 5 members present. We have a quorum.
We have a couple people who'll be a little late. I was almost one of them. There was a very interesting traffic accident on I-40 getting here. If any of you came that way, I hope you weren't tied up in it. But anyway, so we may have a couple people joining us, I expect, as the afternoon proceeds, but we appreciate your patience. All right. Commissioner Levine, however, notified me this week that he will not be here at all, and he is excused per commission policy. He, along with a lot of people in East Tennessee, was impacted by the terrible Hurricane Helene, and we are certainly thinking of him at this time, but he is excused from this meeting. Okay. Before we begin, are there any opening comments from any commissioners? Seeing none, today the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission will hear an overview of the New Start appeals process from Executive Director Tess Stovall, Director of Authorizing Beth Figueroa, and General Counsel Ashley Thomas. Following their presentation, we'll then hear 4 New Start appeals from Nova Smart Academy, Lead Southeast Elementary, Nurses Middle College Nashville, and at the end, Wooddale Middle School. And after that, we will recess for the day. Tomorrow, we will hear the remaining 2 appeals from Encompass Community School and Nashville School of Excellence, followed by reports from the Business Operations Committee and School Performance and Accountability Committee. The TISA Accountability Report, a strategic plan update, and finally, an update from our Executive Director. Do we have any questions or comments regarding the Commission's agenda?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Oh.
There we go. Thank you. I would like to amend the agenda and move Wooddale Middle School to the bottom of the list of schools that we will be hearing from today, if that's appropriate.
Any opposed? All right. The agenda is amended. All right. The minutes of the meeting held on July 26, 2024 have been provided. Does anyone have any edits to make regarding the prior minutes before we proceed? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. In accordance with Commission Policy 1.200, we have reserved time for up to 30 minutes of public comment. Hayden, can you please let us know how many written comments were submitted and introduce any individuals who have registered for public comment?
Yes, Chair, we had 2 written comments submitted that have been included in the record, and we had 2 people register to speak. First is Bunyamin Murat. All right, we'll come back to him. Second is Erhan Ozdaran. see her.
Read the written comments. No, we don't have to read them? Okay, well then we'll just move on into the next part of this meeting because we've got a lot of people here waiting to see what's going to happen. First item on our agenda is an overview of the New Start appeals process from Executive Director Tess Stovall, Director of Authorizing Beth Figueroa, and General Counsel Ashley Thomas. Tess, Beth, and Ashley, you are all recognized.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair Richards. To ensure that both the commissioners as well as the public are well-versed in the New Start application process, we've continually dedicated time during each meeting to discuss its various elements. And so we believe that this reinforces the understanding of the critical and rigorous process that our applicants go through. So over the next 2 days, as Chair Richards mentioned, the commission is going to be discussing 6 New Start appeals. And before we do so, we wanted to provide a brief refresher on what all is included in the New Start process, as well as some overarching themes that emerged as we went through the review. And then we're going to conclude with talking about what happens post-authorization process for any of the schools that are approved. And so first wanted to begin by grounding the discussion in what the charge of the commission is. And so as established under Tennessee Code Annotated, the commission has the responsibility to hear charter school appeals. And what this means is that we provide an avenue for public charter school sponsors that seek authorization when their local Board of Education, when their applications are denied by them. And then next, we authorize and oversee charter schools. And so for schools that we do approve, we become both the authorizer and the LEA agency. And as both the authorizer and LEA, we provide critical oversight, support, and accountability to our schools that are in our portfolio. It's crucial to remember that as a part of our review process that we are conducting a de novo review, on the record review, which means that it's a fresh independent examination of each appeal. And then beyond our legal obligation, we also are committed to being a quality authorizer, which means that we grant charters to competent applicants, that we conduct comprehensive evaluations, and that we engage expert evaluators in the process. So here's a list of the applications that we will be discussing today. We have one from Rutherford County Schools, one out of Memphis Shelby County Schools, and 4 for Metro Nashville Public Schools. So now going into the appeal process, we spend a lot of time at each meeting looking at our flow chart, but it's important to just always remember that any of these applications, they officially began back in December 2023. This is a very long process for everybody who's here and in the room, and that all begins when they file that letter of intent with their local district. And so for an appeal to reach the commission, both the initial and the amended application must have been denied by the local district. Once the appeal is filed with the commission, our staff begins to diligently gather information from both the sponsor and the local district, and that is what becomes the record. The amended application and the budgets are provided to a review committee who conducts their de novo review of the application, and they hold a capacity interview with the sponsor. And then finally, commission staff conduct a public hearing to gather input from the community and accept public comments. And so all of this information goes together to build out the record, and it informs the executive director's findings and recommendation report. All of these steps have to take place within 75 days. And as this flowchart illustrates, the entire process from the sponsor's initial letter of intent to the final decision, it really spans almost an entire year. And so it really just highlights the extensive work that is done in order for the applications to be brought here today. So next, talking about the review committee. As a reminder, the review committee is comprised of independent members that are free of any conflict of interest, and there's various elements that go into the work of the review committee. So they do an independent review, which is based on the Tennessee Department of Education's scoring rubric. They hold a capacity interview where they have the opportunity to ask clarifying questions of the sponsors. And then once they conclude their work, they produce a consensus report, which is compiled of their ratings, and it is included in the executive director's recommendation as an exhibit. It's also important to note here that for the review committee, the application must meet all standards in order for the review committee to recommend approval on an application. And then next, just to cover the public hearing, this is another key part and element of the process because this is an opportunity for staff, the LEA, as well as the sponsors to get together and have open dialogue about the proposed school. And so in accordance with statute, the executive director presided over all of the public hearings that took place over the last few months, which were held in the geographical district that the school proposes to locate. And then during the hearing, Tess asked questions of both the LEA as well as the sponsor, and there was time that was provided to both parties to provide in-person public comments. And so during that time, individuals are able to voice their support for the application, or if there are any concerns, those are also heard at the public hearing. All parties were provided information about how to sign up for public comments in advance of the meeting, and so all parties were provided ample opportunities to provide both written and oral comments, which are included in the record. And so a summary of the public hearing is included in the executive director's recommendation. And I am now going to pass it over to Ashley to talk about the record.
Thanks, Beth. I think the next thing that I want the commissioners to sort of get a review on is the record itself and how the staff went about the last few months of compiling that record. As she mentioned, you all are doing a de novo on the record review. You had included in that record the information from the districts, but you are not bound by the district's decision. You don't have to give deference to that, but we think it's important for you all to sort of see how the districts analyze and how they got to their denial of that application. And so your consideration is limited to what's officially on the record in the appeal. And I've listed here the information that's included in your record. We've compiled it over the last couple of months, as Beth stated. We've provided it to you throughout that time as we compiled it, as we completed the different applications. And I think the last part of the record you will hear today will be the statements in response to the executive director's recommendation. That is a part of the record. That is something that you all can consider when you're deliberating and deciding on these applications. Anything outside of that is not considered a part of the record and can't be considered in your decision. And so after you have reviewed the record, and I anticipate have some robust discussions about these applications, there are two things that you are looking for when making your decision. If you find that the application meets or exceeds the standards set by the Department of Education in their scoring rubric, and you find that approval would be in the best interest of the students, the LEA, or the community, then you all can approve that application. So before we move on and talk about additional context for this particular New Start cycle, I'll stop here for any questions any commissioners may have. I will pass it over to Tess now.
Thank you, Beth and Ashley. So there are some additional context that we're going to see throughout the appeals that we're going to discuss this afternoon and tomorrow morning that I wanted to give you a broad overview of and some context on before we dive into the specifics of each appeal. So first is fiscal impact. In accordance with statute, districts can deny an application if they find that an applicant by opening would cause a substantial negative fiscal impact on the district. So when this is cited in an appeal, the commission staff conducts a review of whether or not there can be determined that there is substantial negative fiscal impact on a district before a decision around the approval or denial of an amended application can be made. It is important to note the burden is on the district to prove substantial negative fiscal impact. We at the Commission are the third state agency to be responsible for conducting this analysis. So prior to the Commission taking responsibility for appeals, these analyses were done by the State Board of Education. Additionally, before them, it was the State Department of Treasury. And so the key questions that all of those agencies have used when evaluating this question is, what has been the district's overall enrollment fluctuation year over year? And how does the proposed opening of the school compare to those enrollment fluctuations and that budgetary impact? district to determine whether or not the opening of that school would have a substantial negative fiscal impact on the district. The second additional context and overview I wanted to provide is around ASD transition schools. So one of the appeals that we have on today's agenda is for an operator that was operating within the Achievement School District, is at the end of their 10-year charter term, and has applied to the local Board of Education for a new 10-year charter term. We have seen these type of applications in the past. If you'll recall, last appeal cycle, we heard from Fairleigh High School. We also heard from Cornerstone Prep Leicester. This process differs from the schools that have applied directly to the commission that we've seen, such as Libertas and Leicester Prep. But the question remains the same. The question is not whether or not the school will remain open. The question for the commission is, who will be responsible for running the school for the next 10 years? Is it the charter operator who is applying for a new 10-year charter term? Or if the answer is no, then that school and responsibility would shift back to the local district to be run and operated at the end of this academic year. So if an appeal is denied and the commission says, no, we're not granting a new charter agreement, then the Department of Education, the Achievement School District, and the local district would all work with the charter operator to transition the school and its students back to the local district. Often a question that comes up in appeals and a review of applications is around curriculum and instructional materials, and so I wanted just to touch base on this quickly to reiterate that all public schools, including charter schools, are required to teach Tennessee academic standards. Schools, all public schools, including charter schools, are assessed on Tennessee academic standards. However, charter schools, like traditional school districts, may seek a waiver to use textbooks and instructional materials that are outside of the list that are approved by the State Board of Education. So traditional districts do this. Charter schools do this as well. There is a process by which a charter school can seek a waiver from their authorizer or from the Department of Education for to use unapproved textbooks and waivers. And I will note this is one of the most common waivers that we see charter schools seeking to use as well. Instructional time and early release. This was an issue that came up in last appeal cycle and an issue that we saw again. I want to reiterate that it is a requirement that all charter schools meet the same instructional time requirements as all traditional public schools. Additionally, State Board of Education rule does allow certain early release days, including those days that are less than 6.5 hours, if a school or a district meets certain requirements. I would say there are a number of districts across the state and charter schools currently who are using early release days and getting their calendars approved by the Department of Education. It is important to note that the annual calendar process is something that is submitted to the authorizer and the Department of Education every spring, and only approved calendars are then implemented that ensure that a school meets instructional time and meets the early release regulations. School and district calendars must receive approval by the Department of Education before they are implemented. And finally, enrollment and financial viability is something that as a part of our process we take very seriously. For those who are able to listen to our committee meetings that happened virtually a couple weeks ago, we talked about how enrollment impacts budgets, and that many charter schools, especially when they're starting to open and get operational, enrollment is sometimes a struggle as they're getting settled and getting established within a neighborhood. And so therefore, it's particularly important that we do our due diligence on the front end to ensure, number one, that we feel confident that a proposed school can meet its enrollment projections. And then number two, what is an applicant's financial contingency plans should they not meet enrollment projections? We also see many operators that are seeking grants, philanthropic grants, that many of them are only available post-authorization. Part of our due diligence is determining which grants are currently secured, what is the likelihood of securing grants after authorization, and then what would it mean for an applicant if they do not secure grants. I do want to note that the Department of Education does have the Charter Schools Program Grant, or the CSP grant, available, and so many applicants have noted that they have received pre-authorization that should they receive approval, that they will have access to the CSP grant from the Department of Education. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Beth and Ashley to discuss what does post-authorization look like should any applications be approved by the commission today or tomorrow.
Thanks, Tess. So as you all are deliberating and making decisions, for any application that is approved, you are approving that application but also agreeing to become the authorizer, unless the local district does have the opportunity to mutually agree with the sponsor for the local district to remain the authorizer. They have 30 days to go through that negotiation. If at the end of that 30 days, we will reach out and begin the process to, for the commission to become the authorizer. For any application that you all may deny today, the sponsors are welcome to submit a letter of intent to go through the New Start cycle for next year. So for any school that you all agree to become authorizer and does not have the mutual agreement for the local district to become the authorizer, we will enter into a charter agreement. Those negotiations will happen post those 30 days ahead of our January meeting. I will then bring those agreements to the commission for approval. It will go over material terms. It will finalize a lot of the things that were stated in the application so that we can begin our oversight for those schools. And then finally, between the authorization and approval of an opening of the school next fall, we will engage in a pre-opening process. And just briefly, that helps us understand the steps that the schools are taking, that they are ready to open in fall 25. We have probably monthly checkpoints as we get closer to that, and we have those updates, and that is where we can determine the likelihood that they will open successfully, or if there is conversation needed about possibly delaying in accordance with statute. And so I will pause there for any final questions before I turn it back over to the chair. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any questions from any commissioners? If not, I would note for the record that both Commissioner Eddie Smith and Commissioner Jamie Woodson have joined us, so they can be noted on the record. All right, we're going to move into the appeals, and the first appeal we will hear today is from Nova Smart Academy. In accordance with Commission Policy 2.000, a representative of each appeal has an opportunity to submit a written statement or be recognized for up to 2 minutes in advance of the Commission's discussion on appeal. Hayden, can you please read any statements received and introduce any representatives who are here today?
Yes, Madam Chair, on behalf of the LEA, Rutherford County Schools, Jeff McCann is here.
McCann. Thank you very much. I'm the Choice and Charter Schools Coordinator for Rutherford County Schools, a role I've been in slightly under a year. It's been quite a learning experience for me, by the way. But I'm here just to represent the school board and speak to you on their behalf and give you a little bit of background into their decision to deny the Nova Smart Academy based on negative financial impact. Now, first of all, if Novus is approved at full capacity, it could reach 1,000 students. That's their forecast, which the resulting impact on the Rutherford County Schools budget might be a loss of up to $10 million in state and local funding. Doesn't sound like a lot based on their whole budget, but quite frankly, we went from 0 charter schools to 3 charter schools this year, one of which is authorized by the commission. And I know we're not supposed to consider the impact of other charter schools, but that did play a part in the board's decision to deny this. due to the $14 million impact on their budget this year and a loss of state and local funds. Now, you might think opening 3 charter schools might result in significant students being pulled from the district rosters, resulting in lower expenditures or lower budgeted expenses for the district, and that has turned out to not be the case. Not a single school lost enough students to the charters to result in losing any teaching positions or any expenses. So we're still faced with the same budget that we had before, but with a loss of $14 million. And the prospect of adding $10 million more to that really led to the board's decision to deny Novus based on that negative financial impact. Add to that the fact that we're a fast growth school or charter, a fast growth district, which adds 1,000 plus students every year. That's another $11 million that is not funded until the back end of the year, yet we still have to meet those students' needs in the current school year. So it's a very tight budget in Rutherford County. It's a struggle every year to get that budget balanced, and the board just did not feel like they could afford another charter school at this time, which led to their ultimate decision to deny Novus Smart Academy based on negative financial impact. Thanks.
Novus Smart Academy submitted the following statement. To the members of the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission, thank you for the opportunity to address the concerns raised by the review committee regarding our application. In this letter, we respectfully propose adjustments and draw attention to key evidence from our application and public hearing that may have been overlooked. We hope this provides clarity and encourages reconsideration. Academic plan and design. Our academic calendar will include 181 instructional days from August 4th to May 22nd, followed by a 21-day extended learning program from June 1st to June 30th. Per the state law, if a student is below expectations, they must attend both a summer learning camp and a fourth grade tutoring to be promoted. The 21-day extended learning program that all students will attend will also conform to state requirements for summer learning loss bridge programs for third grade students. All other students will receive reinforcement in grade level instruction to minimize summer learning loss. We anticipate that ELLs will represent our largest subgroup, and we are prepared to hire certified ESL teachers with a 1:35 ratio as evidenced in our application on page 148 and in our budget. The use of data to implement our evidence-based ELL program, such as the sheltered English instruction model, as evidenced in our application, pages 142 through 157, and to provide extensive professional learning and development for ESL teachers and all instructional staff, ensuring they are equipped to support ELLs in both content mastery and language acquisition as evidenced in our application, pages 143, 148 through 150. We also gained strong support from prospective families, local organizations, and elected officials as evidenced in both our application in attachment G with over 200 written public comments in support of our school. Our partnerships and support from community leaders and elected officials affirm our role as a vital educational option for families in Rutherford County. We have 47 intent to enroll forms completed, representing 49% of our year one enrollment target. Through ongoing partnerships with local preschools and child care facilities, EdConnect, and Tennesseans for Student Success, we will exceed our goal of enrolling 96 scholars in year one. Operations plan and capacity. We understand the critical importance of establishing strong governance and decision-making structures to effectively guide our growth and development as outlined in our application, pages 207 through 211. Our board is actively participating in follow-on support with Build, Excel, Sustain to build robust school-based programs that prioritize financial oversight and academic accountability during years 0 through 2. Additionally, the board will complete the required training hours from TDOE, such as Board on Track, to ensure ongoing governance development. Novus Smart Academy has also established key partnerships with other high-performing charter school boards, including Purpose Preparatory Charter School, Valor Collegiate Academies, and Memphis Merit Academy Charter School. These partnerships enable us to leverage networks and streamline processes specific to Tennessee charter schools. The board is committed to continuous growth and support beyond mere compliance, ensuring the long-term sustainability and success of Novus Smart Academy and its scholars. As a Z Combinator cohort member with Zeta Public Schools, we receive resources and support to ensure a successful launch and sustainable growth beyond years 0 through 1. Furthermore, as part of the Entrepreneurs in Residence cohort with the Charter School Growth Fund, we gain valuable development to enhance our financial oversight and academic accountability. CSGF also provides access to national expertise and support across all levels of leadership, from the board of directors to school-based leadership, covering operations, academics, finance, and governance best practices. In year one, our staffing plan will include 11 teachers for kindergarten, a certified academics coordinator to manage special populations, an operations manager overseeing the office secretary and vendor partnerships, and the lead founder/principal as outlined in our application, pages 246 to 247, and budget. We will expand to more than 60 full-time employees by year 5, including comprehensive operational and academic leadership support. See attachment P. Financial plan and capacity. Prior to approval, we have secured over $1.5 million in philanthropic funding as a member of the CSGF portfolio, as a CSP grant recipient, and through increased funding from the BES Startup Grant. We are confident in maintaining our financial health to fund our extended school year, proposed staffing plan, and pay schedule, as demonstrated by schools like Nashville Classical Charter School, which overcame similar budget constraints early on while achieving high student retention and financial stability. Nova Smart Academy is also prepared to negotiate contracts based on cash flow to mitigate overall margins. Over the past 14 months, the Nova Smart Academy Board of Directors has worked diligently to secure strategic partnerships and philanthropic support, ensuring long-term sustainability. If we determine that opening by August 2025 does not align with our facility's timeline, we will utilize the option to delay until August 2026 in accordance with Tennessee Code Annotated 4913-110B. Your vote today is crucial in helping us fulfill the commitment we've made to our community. Respectfully submitted, Jeremy Sager, lead founder and CEO, Nova Smart Academy.
Thank you, Hayden. We will now move to a presentation from Tess Stovall regarding Nova Smart Academy. Tess, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Richards. I am now going to start with a summary of my recommendation to the Commission on Nova Smart Academy. It is proposing to locate in the Smyrna-Laverne area of Rutherford County Schools. The application was denied by Rutherford County's Board of Education in July of 2024. So based on the Commission's process that was outlined earlier, I determined that the application did not rise to the level of meeting or exceeding the standard as outlined in the state scoring rubric, and that the denial of the application was not contrary to the best interests of the students, the LEA, and the community. And therefore, it is my recommendation that the Commission deny the amended application. However, I first want to touch on the substantial negative fiscal impact argument that Rutherford County Schools Board of Education used to deny the application. So when a district denies based on substantial negative fiscal impact, the Commission rule states that the burden is on the district to establish that negative fiscal impact, such that the approval of the charter school would be contrary to the best interests of the students, the LEA, and the community. As outlined in my recommendation, I do not conclude that Rutherford County Schools carried its burden to prove that the approval of the Nova Smart application will present a substantial negative fiscal impact on the district. It is important to note that the Commission's charge in law is to evaluate the impact of the opening of the charter school that we're considering here today. Within the district's argument, and as stated earlier in the district statement, the district shared not only the impact of the application's opening, but also the impact of the collective all charter schools operating within Rutherford County Schools. The overall impact of all charter schools is outside of the Commission's purview when it comes to evaluating the substantial negative fiscal impact of opening the charter school that's before us today. Rutherford County Board of Education also asserts as a part of its argument that the way school districts are funded is not equitable, particularly those fast-growing districts, because prior year enrollment and student characteristics is the driver of how a school district generates the current year funding amount. And that a growing district like Rutherford County is that a district that is seeing significant population growth on an annual basis, that the funding does not keep up with the district student enrollment. And while I understand this argument and this situation that Rutherford County is in, the basis of this argument is based on how statute and state board rule define how the state's school funding formula. That is not for the commission here to deliberate. It is outside of our purview. The state's funding formula, since it's outside of the purview of the commission, was not considered in my analysis of the school's funding and the school's impact on the district. And finally, I do want to take a moment to explain how charter school funding works, because there has been a lot of inaccurate information about how charter school funding works, particularly for new and opening charter schools. So it is important to note that all schools and all school districts are funded off of prior year enrollment. That is the basis of their funding. That is the same for charter schools when they are fully built out. Their prior year student characteristics and enrollment is the basis of their funding for the next year. However, State Board of Education rule and statute acknowledge that for a new school that is just opening, there is no prior year data to go on. So State Board of Education rule states that an authorizer and a charter school agree upon a projected student enrollment amount in which a charter school will be funded for the first 3 months that they are open. Then a charter school's funding is reconciled to actual enrollment in October, February, and June. So what that means is that a charter school is only funded for the students that are in the building and that are being served by a charter school. Charter schools are not being funding for students that are not in the building. They are not getting funded on a projected amount of students if those students actually do not enroll and are being served. And I think that's a really important point for us to discuss and for the commission to understand and for the public to understand, is that both charter schools are funded when they're new and opening based on their current year enrollment to get started, but then once they are fully built out, they are funded like any other school district or school in the state based on prior year numbers. And that true up happens throughout the year so that funding only reflects the students who are in the building. So when we looked at the district's enrollment data year over year, we can confirm what Rutherford County's argument states. They are a fast-growing district. They stated and can confirm that they are growing on average about 1,000 students a year. And there is no sign that that is changing or that trend is going to plateau anytime soon. And we also recognize that the district has managed to operationally and financially handle that fast enrollment growth with or without charter schools being in the picture. Additionally, when we evaluated the district's audits, we found that the financial position of the district continues to be strong. So therefore, we recognize that this shows a likelihood of continued financial health for the district, even if Novus Smart opened with less than 100 students. I understand that Rutherford County has seen 3 charter schools open this year, and that the district is grappling with a fast-growing population and new challenges that come with budgeting for charter schools to provide additional student options. However, we did not find that there was evidence to meet the burden of the approval of Novus Smart Academy with less than 100 students in year 1 would constitute a negative fiscal impact on the district such that it would meet the burden that's established in state law. To meet the burden to be considered substantially negative, the fiscal impact of a charter school must show it's above and beyond a district's normal enrollment fluctuations. Districts regularly project enrollment, and actual enrollment comes in a little below or a little above. That is a normal state of districts across the state. And what we saw is that is no different from what we saw in Rutherford County's data, and that they are regularly adjusting their budget and overall operations to enrollment fluctuations. And the data demonstrates that Rutherford County Schools' financial position continues to improve year over year. I do not take lightly the difficult situation that Rutherford County Schools is in as a fast-growing district with 1,000 new students every year, with the need to build new facilities, expand facilities. That is absolutely a priority that they are addressing, and I understand those complexities. I also see that charter schools can and should be a part of that overall solution for the district to support them in their overall growth. And therefore, in the totality, I did not find that Rutherford County Schools met the burden of proving that the approval of Nova Smart Academy would constitute a substantial negative fiscal impact on the district. And with that, I am then moving to the merits of the actual amended application for Nova Smart Academy. So as a reminder, the commission's charge is to conduct a de novo on the record review, so a fresh review of the amended application. And through that lens, the commission's process does raise concerns and may raise concerns of elements of an application that were not named in a local district's process. And that is because our commission review committee is trained on the state's rubric. They do not receive the local district's reasons for denial. And we expect them to take an independent evaluation of the application to determine, is this an application that is ready for approval or not? In totality, I agree with the Commission's Review Committee's analysis that we do not believe that Nova Smart Academy has sufficient evidence within its current application to meet or exceed the standards for approval. I commend the applicant for its mission and vision. The proposed school leader and governing board are very clearly committed to the work in Rutherford County. I do think that the district and the applicant developed a strong working relationship throughout the application process, and one that was very clear to us through this appeal process. And while I appreciate the intention of the academic year and the extended school year and what we heard today around adjustments that they would make, the plans for me were too underdeveloped to ensure that they would not only meet the statutory requirements around an academic calendar, meet the statutory requirements around summer programming, and that their entire academic model would not have to be shifted based on the changes that they discussed in today's statement. Additionally, we asked in multiple occasions regarding how would funding for the summer program work, because schools are not funded for an extended year, and the summer programming is fundamentally different than how traditional school year funding works. We did not see this built into the budget. Additionally, we already have significant concerns about their proposed teacher salary and it not being competitive with the Rutherford County School District. And we know how difficult the teacher recruitment market is, and not being able to be competitive with the resident district puts a school at a disadvantage from a teacher recruitment perspective. When we evaluated the academic model and the adjustments necessary, we determined that the overall academic plan, calendar, student recruitment, teacher recruitment, and financial plan would have to be adjusted to ensure compliance with state statute. And while I appreciate the statement provided here today and the acknowledgement by the applicant that their academic plan would need to be adjusted, these proposed changes, in my opinion, are far too significant to leave to a pre-opening process. I also found the operations plan to partially meet the standard. And while I appreciate that the board is highly dedicated to the proposed school, I did find that the governing board itself needs to have more clear metrics of accountability for the proposed school and the school leader, and to understand how the board will ensure the roles and responsibilities of open and operating a new school in a new area will be fulfilled. I do want to note that the sponsor had made notable progress on a facility acquisition, and that was shared in the public hearing. However, I do have remaining concerns about the budget of the sponsor, including the facility cost. As it stands, the budget had slim margins, and the review committee felt that some of the estimates that were provided within the budget were probably going to come in over budget based on what we saw. Additionally, as I've said, the teacher salary was not competitive with the local district. At the public hearing, the sponsor testified that the renovation costs on the identified facility were approximately $500,000, and this was not included in the budget. And while I appreciate the information about securing additional philanthropic dollars, my more significant concern is the fact that the financial plan as it stands would have to be completely reworked based on the information provided in today's statement. based on the facility costs that they have identified in the public hearing. And I do not have confidence at this point in time that we have enough information to determine the financial viability of the school. I deeply appreciate the passion and dedication of the Nova Smart Academy team, but I cannot recommend this application for approval at this time. I think the applicant has very strong ideas. I think that they could open successfully in Rutherford County in future years, but I would recommend that the applicant review the concerns outlined in my recommendation and by the review committee, make the proposed adjustments that they outlined in their statement today, and consider applying again in a future cycle with these issues addressed. And with that, it is my recommendation that the commission deny the Nova Smart Academy amended application, and I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Before we start our general discussion, are there any questions for Tess either on the substantial negative financial impact, which we will consider separately, or on the underlying whether they meet the state rubric with respect to operations, financial, and their academic plan? So now's the time to ask Tess questions. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Chair Richards. So Tess, just looking at all the data that I could find, what doesn't make sense to me is the argument, and again, this is on the negative fiscal impact. The gentleman, Jeff McCann from Rutherford County, said that there was a $14 million deficit this coming year. But when I look at the actual data that Rutherford County has for their budgets, it's actually increased year over year over year. So they're not actually a deficit. It's just really lost potential income, not actually lost income. I want to make sure that's abundantly clear for the record, that they're not actually seeing any less money. They're just seeing not as much as they would have hoped had all those students actually been in Rutherford County schools versus going to a charter school, correct? Oh.
That is correct, but I will turn to Beth Figueroa to correct me if there's something else she would like to say. Beth is our resident fiscal expert as her prior career as a CPA, so I'll defer any of those questions to her.
And then the last thing, and this is, I know you can't, it's more of just kind of going to that negative fiscal impact. When I look at all of the data behind that, I saw in one report that 17 of the schools in Rutherford County were over capacity, which means you've actually got more kids than what's recommended crammed into classrooms. So while the negative fiscal impact might be an argument, I would counter that what they're actually doing to students is probably a greater negative impact when you're having to cram so many kids in, possibly kids having to eat in hallways for lunch and stuff like that. That's not giving them the good experience. I know there's a plan that Rutherford County is working on. It's just something that I want to make sure they are very cognizant of before they try and use the negative fiscal impact in the future, of looking at it from what is not just for Rutherford County schools, but what's in the best interest of the students that are in those buildings? And that's something that we've got to take into consideration. And I just kind of look at the fact that if we didn't have these 3 charter schools that Rutherford County has approved, the overcrowding would be worse. So, while there might be more money, they're not actually hiring more teachers or anything like that because they're just cramming more kids into the classroom. So just things to kind of think about, but I just wanted to make sure that I was hearing everything correctly, that it was more about lost potential revenue than actual revenue.
Are there other questions for Tess? Commissioner Griscom?
There we go. So one of the other issues in looking at this is with the overcrowding and a plan for new buildings, well, charter schools are building. They have to have a facility. They pay for them. The school district does not. The taxpayers do not in the county where it's being located. So I would hope that that also gets factored in when you look at this, is that these aren't just schools sitting out there that are by themselves, but they do potentially open up an opportunity that might remove the need to build a future school, if I understand correctly.
That is correct.
Since there are a couple of former legislators on our panel. I'm glad you all are part of this. But it does sound like the opportunity is there to take this discussion, which has been brought up in this application, and look at it in terms of some change to the state funding formula, if that's required, so that maybe you aren't looking back, you're looking ahead. But that's not for us to decide. It may not be practical, but I would assume that this is a conversation to have with the next session of the legislature and with the governor.
Any other questions? Commissioner Woodson.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. This may be an overly broad question, Tess, but can you imagine a set of circumstances where a district who has 1,000 new students annually, can you imagine a circumstance where the statute on negative fiscal impact could apply?
So let me speak broadly to all of the substantial negative fiscal impacts that have been conducted since that I have seen. And prior to them coming to the State Board of Education, the Department of the Treasury did multiple, including one that I thought was the most interesting in Blount County, smaller, mid-sized county. And when they looked at, again, the normal enrollment fluctuations, that again, districts regularly handle even declines that if you're just thinking about number of students that would be enrolled in the district, that they'd handle those declines regularly. So when I look at a district that is growing every year, that is regularly growing substantially every year, I think it would be, in the way that we conduct substantial negative fiscal impact analysis, I think it would be very challenging to meet the bar that level of growth could not be supported by opening a charter school that might support them in a facility and support them in the long-term educational cost of a school.
Commissioner Woodson, I would note that we had an applicant a couple years ago in a very small county in West Tennessee who made a proposal to have a high school charter granted, and it would have resulted in the student population of the county, in order to meet their enrollment projection, they would have had to lure half of the students who were currently in the high school, and that did meet the substantial negative financial criteria, and that kind of situation might meet it going forward. It's a small county where they only have one high school, that kind of a situation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That makes great sense to me. And I suspect that rural county didn't have 1,000 new kids joining in the community annually. And so it is beyond my limited imagination to imagine where it would raise to this level in even close to a similar circumstance. So just as we think about our partners across the state and the straight face test that we use on these complex statutory requirements, this one felt like a pretty simple calculation. If I may model my colleague, Representative Smith, in candor.
Yeah, no, your points are well taken, and unfortunately that county may get to become a rapidly growing county thanks to Blue Oval City, so we'll see what happens. Okay, other questions for Tess before we begin our general discussion?
I would just say, any questions on the application itself before I take my seat and let you all deliberate?
Seeing none. Are there any commissioners that want to be recognized for discussion about this application?
Okay. Just didn't want to jump in. So, I think everybody can kind of gather that I don't support the negative fiscal impact. However, in reading everything, going over it over the last couple of weeks, and then reading Tessa's recommendation, I do believe that this is not quite ready. I believe that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done before we look at, again, one of the things that we've all said and what we committed to the General Assembly when we all got appointed is we're not going to just plop schools in. We want schools that are going to meet the higher bar. And on all metrics, this one from our own review committee only partially meets the standards. So with that, right now, I can't support moving this one forward. I do think it needs to go back, and another year of work needs to be done before it comes back through the normal process.
Any other comments, discussion? I will add to this. I am very sympathetic to the arguments that were raised by Rutherford County concerning funding of rapidly growing school districts, but unfortunately, as was noted, it's outside our purview. We have to apply the law and the rules of the DOE as they currently apply and are written. That being said, this would be something that you might want to take up with the legislature, the governor going forward, as Commissioner Griscom said, because it is obviously a problem. And to me, I would see no reason why we couldn't let rapidly growing districts make the choice every year as to how they're evaluated, if they want to go off the prior year or be able to adopt some kind of actual enrollment trued up during the year, just the way the charters are. I don't think people understand the charters do get trued up, and they are only paid for the students that they actually have in the building, even though they're allowed to start with a projection. So it is a difference. That being said, I will join our executive director with concerns about the budget planning for this charter. It doesn't seem to meet our test of providing a high likelihood of financial success, and I am troubled by the budget adjustments that would be necessary if their teacher pay was to be brought up to the Rutherford County market, from what I understand about Rutherford County teacher salaries. So those are my concerns as far as going forward. Are there other comments? Okay, if not, I'm going to go ahead and start. I think we need to handle the substantial negative financial impact separately. I'm looking to our general counsel, or can we just do the whole thing? Okay, all righty. With that being said, we're going to take a vote on the Nova Smart Academy appeal. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to uphold the denial of Nova Smart Academy?
Support.
Thank you. Second. Hayden, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Carter. Nope. Commissioner Griscom. Commissioner Eddie Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Lauren Smith. Commissioner Tudor.
Aye.
Commissioner Woodson. Aye. Chair Richards.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes.
All right, thank you. The denial of Nova Smart Academy's application will be upheld, and we will move forward to the next appeal. And we're going to move to Lead Southeast Academy next. Hayden, can you please read any statements received or introduce any representatives who are here today?
First up, on behalf of Metro Nashville Public Schools, Rodney Rowan.
Good afternoon. Madam Chair, members of the Tennessee Public Charter Commission, my name is Dr. Rodney Rowan. I'm the Executive Officer of Schools for Metro Nashville Public Schools. MNPS respectfully disagrees with the Executive Director's recommendation to overturn the board's decision to deny the amended application for LEAD Southeast. I want to acknowledge LEAD's proactive efforts to, 1, establish a well-structured governing board, 2, secure a strong academic leader, elementary leader, like Dr. Ricky Gibbs, head of schools. And I would like to acknowledge their efforts to cultivate a strong community partnership. But I encourage you to consider the word consistency. Consistency is the quality of always behaving or performing in a similar way, or always happening in a similar way. LEAD Public Schools have consistently shown academic achievement and growth at its Southeast location that serves students in grades 5 through 12. However, academic success has not occurred throughout the other schools in LEAD's network. LEAD Brick Church was a priority school 10 years consecutively. The network applied for a 2-year waiver, and LEAD Brick Church remained a priority school. In LEAD Public Schools application, the organization noted that Brick Church is no longer in the bottom 10% of the state academically. However, a well-developed academic plan does not take 12 years to move a school out of the bottom 12% of the state academically. After 12 years of being exposed to a well-developed, data-driven, robust support plan for students, I wonder what Brick Church School's success rate is to date. Because a success rate less than 20% is not good for students. LEAD Cameron was identified as a school in the bottom 10% in 2022, and LEAD Cameron consistently vacillates academically. With the additional information presented today, we respectfully ask that you do not consider the Executive Director's recommendation to uphold, and we ask you to uphold MNPS's decision to deny LEAD Southeast Elementary School. Thank you.
On behalf of LEAD Public Schools, we have Ricky Gibbs.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. I'm Dr. Ricky Gibbs, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as head of schools at LEAD Public Schools. I joined the LEAD team in June 2023 to champion the vision of expanding to elementary so that we can be consistently serve families and become a high-quality K-12 network. After more than a year of doing this work and working towards serving elementary-age students, I'm excited to stand in front of you today and ask that you follow Ms. Stovall's recommendation by voting to approve the opening of LEAD Southeast Elementary. As you read in Ms. Stovall's report, LEAD Public Schools is well equipped with the right experience and resources to open LEAD Southeast Elementary. Adding an elementary school to our network will allow us to improve the readiness of our incoming middle school students and in turn further strengthen the academic outcomes. This school will help support the population growth in Southeast Nashville and provide families the much needed excellent elementary option for their children. As far as the district arguments against the ability of our network, Ms. Stovall said it best in her report. There is clear data throughout the record that LEAD Public Schools has been a value add to the Nashville community. Within the totality of our network's data, there is clear evidence of academic success. You also just heard that from Dr. Rowan. We have schools that have achieved level 5 TVOS status consistently. We have schools that have exited the priority status list, as well as we have schools that have earned reward status. One of the highest recognitions you can earn in the state of Tennessee. Our team is excited and more than ready to begin this work. I ask that you allow us the opportunity to create a consistent K-12 experience for students at LEAD by voting to approve LEAD Southeast Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will now move to a presentation from Tess Stovall regarding Lead Southeast Elementary. Thank you, Tess.
Thank you, Chair Richards. As stated, this next appeal is for Lead Southeast Elementary School, which is proposing to locate in the southeast area of Davidson County. The application was denied by the Metro Nashville Board of Education in July of 2024. Based on the Commission's process, I determined that the application meets or exceeds the standards outlined in the state scoring rubric, and I believe the approval of the application would be in the best interest of the students, the LEA, and the community. First, the academic plan, I find, meets the standard for approval. Lead Network is an experienced operator striving towards academic success and developing very clear strategies to close achievement gaps in targeted neighborhoods. I appreciate the sponsor's plan to build a K-12 continuum as a strength. They already have existing schools, middle and high schools in the area they propose to open an elementary school. As stated, the network has been committed to opening elementary schools for several years, including hiring several experienced staff members with elementary experience to support the implementation. Another very clear strength is the enrollment plan for Lead Southeast. First, the operator is a staple in the Southeast community of Nashville, as they operate both an existing middle and high school. They provided clear evidence within the application of surveys and community information gathering to determine whether or not families would be interested in an elementary model. And it is based on this very clear evidence within the application and a deep understanding of the community in which they intend to serve that I believe they are uniquely positioned to open an elementary school in the Southeast area. They already have a matriculation agreement between the middle and high schools in that area. And so this elementary school would offer a K-12 option within the same operator for families. I believe that the approval of this amended application would further the overall mission and vision of the sponsor. This is a growing area of Nashville. And we heard at the public hearing that the local district has asked for funding from the city council to build an additional elementary school in the area. The network also has a strong operations plan with a well-established and experienced network team and governing board. I want to note that we were particularly impressed with the engagement of the governing board in the capacity interview, who very clearly could articulate the goals for the network and how they hold the CEO and network responsible for their implementation plans. As I stated, they have already hired individuals with clear elementary school experience, and they have a track record of success that I believe will also lead them to having a success at the Lead Southeast Elementary. And one thing we talked extensively about was teacher recruitment and retention. This is an issue that all schools have right now in the teacher market, and they have a clear track record and recruitment plan to staff the school with high quality teachers. I also want to note the sponsor has a strong financial record. They are prepared to open an elementary school. They have positive financial management. We reviewed their past audits and their proposed network budget, none of which is dependent on the approval of an amended application. I do want to take a moment and talk about the past performance of the operator because this was discussed extensively at the public hearing. We found that the application met or exceeded the standard for approval in the past performance section. The sponsor has been a part of the educational landscape in Nashville since 2007. And in that time, the network has achieved academic success. It has taken over zone schools and has operated them for the district. It has worked with families across the city to close achievement gaps. MNPS's argument rested on the fact that Lead Brick Church should factor heavily in the Commission's decision to deny this application. The Commission deliberated extensively on Lead Brick Church in February of this year. And while I recommended the denial of the application for Lead Brick Church for a new charter agreement under Lead, Throughout my application and my recommendation, I noted that the network has made intentional efforts throughout Nashville that have led to improved outcomes for students. There is clear data throughout the record that Lead Public Schools has been a value add to Nashville. And with 4 of 5 authorized charter schools that Lead operates under Metro Nashville Public Schools, it has been a value add to the district. Lead has demonstrated itself to be a reflective operator. In the capacity interview, we discussed the lessons learned from Brick Church. I find them willing to take feedback, make improvements, acknowledge areas where they could have done better, and how they are using those lessons learned to implement an elementary model. Rather than seeing the closure of Brick Church as being an overall negative, I appreciate that Lead has learned from their lessons, and they intend to apply it to their operations in the future. For all the reasons included in my recommendation and stated here today, the Commission only expects the schools that have demonstrated a high likelihood of success, who have clear data to support enrollment projections, their financial viability, and demonstrate that they meet or exceed the standards outlined in the state scoring rubric to be authorized by the Commission. And I believe that Lead Public Schools can provide a quality K-12 educational experience for students in a growing area of Nashville. And with that, it is my recommendation that the Commission approve the Lead Southeast Elementary, and I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Commissioner Griscom?
Thank you. At some point, I really thought we were reconsidering Brick Church. And we've heard that again today. And we're not. I thought when, in this application, the consistency of having, we're going to touch a student from the beginning all the way through to the end. When they first come in, and if we can do some things in elementary school to get them better prepared for middle school and then to high school, that to me is a great target to have and a great opportunity and to impact the child who are going to be the future leaders and employees in our state. And that to me is very compelling. We're not voting on Brick Church. I mean, we did that. That was a very rigorous discussion, as you said, a very tough decision that we made. But that ability to say we're going to reach and touch that student from the beginning day they walk in to the day that they graduate from high school, to me was very compelling. And I agree with you, after about 17 years of performance in Metro Nashville, this is a system that I think has shown an ability to provide a good education and also to realize if we got some things that need to be fixed, we're going to fix them. And I really appreciate the presentation, appreciate your recommendation, and the fact that Lead decided, let's go with this school, let's get one elementary school up and going, then we may come back and talk again. So I just wanted to make those points, and I'm glad that, no, we are not reconsidering Brick Church.
Commissioner Eddie Smith?
Thank you, Chair Richards. Quick question, Tess. Just something that I heard a minute ago. Just curious, how many MNPS schools have been in the bottom 10% for at least a decade? Oh.
I do not have that answer to that question. I apologize. We could have Rebecca pull that if you want to come back to it, but I don't know.
If we could pull that real quick and then come back to that question.
Well, I do think if you looked, when I looked at the whole record and looked at the capacity interview, it was apparent that there were the schools in that cluster and in that area were not performing at a high level. There were a significant number of C and D and lower schools, at least in the current evaluation cycle.
And the only reason I ask is because when the gentleman from MNPS spoke, he said it shouldn't take 12 years to get a school out of the bottom 10%. So that's why I'm curious how many of MNPS's schools have been in the bottom 10%. Because if you're going to hold one standard for one group, you should hold it for yourself. So that's really why I'm asking.
Are there other questions for Tess or comments anyone wants to bring on? Commissioner Lauren Smith.
It's not so much a question. I just wanted to say I was very excited to see this application as a Nashvilleian, and just very, very much respect the lead team, the leadership team there, especially. Really glad to see that Dr. Gibbs joined, really in preparation for this. And I'm just really excited to see a K-12 continuum. We don't have many of those here for our charter networks, so I'm excited to support the application.
Commissioner Carter.
Here's our technology. You know, to those that are in attendance, we speak the same language from the standpoint of, again, our passion for wanting to make a difference in terms of the scholars that we work with. There's a duality that I have as a commissioner on this board. One is that I'm a business owner and have been for a number of years, but I'm also a co-founder of a charter school in Detroit that's been in operations for 14 years. So, you know, when we talk about the sacrifice and we talk about the dedication that's required, even for the school that, in fact, again, we just recently, again, said no to, there's a real appreciation for the fact that, again, a lot of time, effort, capital has gone into, in fact, coming or getting to a point where, again, after a lot of man hours, you're in a position to say, look, we'd like to look at having you consider us launching this business. And putting that business hat on to all of you, there's an issue where I look at process, I look at people, I look at leadership, and I look at, again, reserves, capital reserves. And so when I look at lead, I look at that senior group, people that I know, and I look at what they've achieved. I look at in terms of the success that they've had. And so this is not a tough decision when you talk about trying to look at impacting a very unique, diverse demographic base. As a co-founder of a high school that's been going on for 14 years, we're on our third charter management organization. Leadership's everything. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure you get the right people driving the bus. You're going to make sure you have the right people on the bus. And those are tough business decisions because you're impacting people's lives. But at the end of the day, it's about the scholars. It's about the people that you serve. So it's really clear, at least when I, in fact, have an opportunity to look at hearing about an applicant that comes before me, and we hear from, again, our executive director in terms of their recommendation, which we weigh very heavily. But we have a fiduciary responsibility to look at making a decision to what's best, okay, as commissioners. This is not a tough business decision. I believe that this is an organization, particularly when you look at, again, the leadership piece. Been there, done that, they've got the T-shirt to show for it. So it's not a tough decision to say we need to support, again, the recommendation for our executive director. You need to be ready for prime time. This is major leagues. And if you don't have people that, in fact, have the experience base, have the capital, have the right leadership team, and, again, support team, it's very difficult to make it. Take it from me, who, in fact, who's, even though I live here, my heart's in Detroit because that's my home. So it's a man hours on my part, plus a significant amount of my capital that's gone out to look at trying to impact those scholars in Detroit. It ain't about me. It's not about you. It's about the scholars. I'm really pleased with what you folks have done. Continue to do the great work. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Tudor?
Just two quick questions. First, will you, I know we've talked a lot about Brick Church, just confirming this was not a school that Lead started. It was a school that they took over, okay, from MNPS, and now it returned.
That is correct.
And then second question, just to confirm, generally speaking, Lead schools have outperformed neighboring MNPS schools. Is that correct?
Based on the data that we looked, that is a correct answer.
Thanks.
Before we take a vote, I just want to commend this applicant, their leadership team, and Mr. Gibbs with an established track record of success at an elementary school level. There's been few applications that I have seen that I felt as confident in the ability of a leader to execute against their plan as this application. I also think that with the focus of this being a single school and not two schools to be done at a single year, that even heightens my support and likelihood that this is going to be a successful school. And as noted by our executive director, you can always come back once you show a little bit of success in this area. So that's kind of the way I look at that. I agree with Commissioner Griscom. We're not reevaluating Brook Church. I think this afternoon we're going to hear yet another difficult situation because these schools that have been removed from the local LEA and put in the ASD were struggling schools when they went in the ASD. This is some of the hardest turnaround work that is asked of any organization in the state. And, I don't think that Commissioner Eddie Smith's question was out of line. I mean, this is very, very hard work, and I'm not surprised that there are, difficulties when one of these has to be reevaluated for a charter. That being said, this is a New Start school, and it's a New Start elementary school. It's not a middle school, and I don't see where Brook Church has much relevance to this. So that's my comment. Are there any other questions or comments before we call for a vote? Okay.
So on the 2022 list, MNPS had 19 schools on the priority list. We'll have to spend some more time to dig into, but you know what, Commissioner Smith, we have some time this afternoon and tomorrow that we can pull a more historical perspective. But on the most recent list, there were 19 schools.
Thank you. And again, Chair Richards is right. My point was everybody needs to be held to the same standard. And in looking at it, I go back and think of a decade ago, to be in the bottom 10% meant that about 15% proficiency. We've moved that up. So the entire, all boats are lifted in the state. So even to be in the bottom 10% now, more students are proficient than they were a decade ago. So I just want to make sure that that is also clear, because I do believe that both Metro Nashville as well as our charters are doing some great work to move that boat. But after reviewing the record, looking at everything, I do believe that this school, this New Start, was unjustly denied at the district level. So therefore, I would make a motion that we support the executive director recommendation and approve the application before us today.
Okay. Other comments before we call this matter? All right. We're going to proceed with voting on overturning the denial of Leeds Southeast Elementary's application. Okay? Hayden, please call the roll.
Commissioner Carter.
Board? Yes, yay. All the above.
Commissioner Griscom.
You can only vote once.
Commissioner Eddie Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Lauren Smith. Commissioner Tudor.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodson. Chair Richards.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes.
All right. So we have overturned that decision. All right. Do we need to take a 5-minute break? I don't know how many of you want to stay around or. Yeah, okay. I've been getting the signal. Everybody'd like to take. Let's take a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at 1:40. All right, we're going to get started in just a minute. Okay, our next appeal is from Nurses Middle College, Nashville. Hayden, can you please read any statements received and introduce any representatives here today?
First, on behalf of Metro Nashville Public Schools, we have Rodney Rowan.
Good afternoon again. Madam Chair and members of the Tennessee Public Charter Commission, my name is Dr. Rodney Rowan. I'm the Executive Officer of Schools for Metro Nashville Public Schools. However, MNPS respectfully disagrees with the Executive Director's recommendation to overturn the board's decision to deny the amended application for Nurses Middle College. I want to first acknowledge Nurses Middle College's proactive effort to, number one, garner community support. Number two, Nurses has established a firm financial position, i.e. the partnership with Bloomberg Philanthropies. And then they also have a proactive development plan as it relates to the facility. Having a building downtown is very attractive. But I encourage you to consider the word duplication. Duplication is the act of making an exact copy of something or doing the same thing more than once. Nurses referenced that they were offered dual enrollment, work-based learning, and industry credentials. These same services are offered in 10 schools and in MNPS through the district CTE program. Nurses Middle College also asserts that there's a four-year college prep curriculum that will be offered through the Nursing Lens, and it will be aligned with Tennessee state standards. This also already exists in 10 MNPS schools. Nurses also states that they will address the diverse needs of students with disabilities, students that are economically disadvantaged, students that are English language learners, the SEL, the social emotional needs, speech services, physical therapy, occupational therapy. Presently in the field of education, there's a shortage of licensed workers in all of the fields that were aforementioned. In closing, I want to give you a hypothetical situation. As students attend Nurses Middle College, they must enter as a ninth grade student. If a ninth grade student after 2 years decides that Nurses Middle College is no longer of interest to them, my question is, could that student remain at Nurses Middle College as a traditional student, or would a student be offered the robust academic offerings that they would need to be a ready Tennessee graduate? Or if a student transfers to a traditional school, will there be a disruption in the student's path to become a ready Tennessee graduate? Does Nurses have a robust plan to aggressively monitor their ninth grade students each year? Because we know that if a ninth grade student comes to a school, and if they transfer, and if the school does not aggressively track that ninth grade student, that student will negatively impact that school's graduation rate. Low graduation rates could easily designate Nurses as a priority school. Is there a shortage of nurses? Yes. Does Nurses have a concept that is unique? Yes. However, this is a duplication of services, and for that reason, we ask that you uphold MNPS's recommendation to deny Nurses Middle College. Thank you.
Next, on behalf of Nurses Middle College, Andrea Pointer.
Good afternoon, members of the commission, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Dr. Andrea Pointer. I've been a registered nurse for 18 years, a nursing professor for 10 years, and I am now the nursing executive director for Nurses Middle College, Nashville. I want to thank the commission for the opportunity to appeal and to engage in the public hearing and the capacity interview process. At Nurses Middle College, Nashville, we have done extensive engagement with the healthcare community and families across Nashville. We know there is a significant demand for an innovative educational model that will provide a diverse student population with hands-on rigorous learning, soft skills and professional development, and the opportunity to earn healthcare certificates while in high school to prepare them for their career, whether in healthcare or to develop them for the skills they need to deal with the rigors of college. We've heard from more than 405 families between August and now, and over 190 of those being 8th graders. Students who are interested in enrolling next year, and our healthcare and higher education partners have already demonstrated their commitment by supporting us to offer summer and fall break camps experiences to more than 50 students. I ask that you vote in favor of the Executive Director's recommendations today and enable us to provide a world-class nursing education, open the door to the healthcare profession for high school students and families across Nashville. Thank you.
Thank you. I will recognize our Executive Director, Tess Stovall.
Thank you, Chair Richards. As stated, the appeal that we have before us right now is for Nurses Middle College Nashville, which is proposing to locate in the downtown area of Metro Nashville. The application was denied by the Metro Nashville Board of Education in July of 2024. Based on the Commission's process, I determined that the application meets or exceeds all standards outlined in the state scoring rubric. I also believe that the approval of the application would be in the best interest of the students, the LEA, and the community. The sponsor has demonstrated a clear and innovative mission and model that offers a unique nursing focus for students. Ultimately, the proposed program will have students will have the opportunity to earn a certified nursing assistant's credential, which is not currently offered in any high school within Metro Nashville Public School. And that will enable the student to either enter the workforce upon graduation or make progress towards a post-secondary nursing degree. The sponsor clearly articulates in the application that they are working to address a nationwide nursing shortage by better preparing individuals with experience and workforce credentials by the time they enter high school. This school will be a value add, specifically within the Nashville community, which is known to be a hub of the healthcare industry. In particular, I think it's important that the sponsor proposes to contract with a charter management organization that operates 2 successful high schools with this model in Rhode Island and in New York. The Rhode Island school has been open since 2011. It ranks as one of the top schools in the state for success metrics, for college success metrics, with high rates of students earning college credits and workforce credentials. The sponsor aims to locate in the downtown area of Nashville to be specifically near healthcare partners, but intends to recruit students from across Nashville, particularly in underserved areas. One of the reasons cited by the Metro Nashville Board of Education and as articulated today is that many high schools within Metro Nashville Public Schools already offer a health sciences concentration. So the model in and of itself would not be innovative. In particular, I disagree with this assertion. While it is the case that MNPS does have career academy models that include a health science concentration, none of these pathways offer what the proposed public charter school here that we're discussing today would provide students. Another cited reason for denial by the local board is around instructional calendar and early release days. As we discussed in my opening presentation, this is an area of complex operational implementation. State Board of Education rule does allow school districts and schools to release early if they meet certain requirements. An LEA and an authorizer works closely with authorized charter schools annually to submit a calendar to the Department of Education for approval. And it is important to note that it is through this approval process that early release days and professional development days are worked through together to ensure that they meet the instructional time requirements. The sponsor has stated throughout this process that they intend to meet all requirements outlined in statute and State Board of Education rule. They outline contingency plans regarding their professional development plan. And given this is an area where there is clear oversight and monitoring of all schools, not just public charter schools, I did not find this as a sufficient reason for the denial of this application. Additionally, I was extremely impressed by the proposed governing board of this school. Within the capacity interview, they demonstrated deep knowledge of the model and a deep commitment to the success of the school. They were able to clearly articulate how they will hold the executive director and school accountable. Additionally, the hired executive director brings clear expertise in the nursing field and within the healthcare community. However, within the capacity interview, we probed about how the governing board would ensure that there is experience on the team with academic implementation, particularly at the high school level. The board was able to very clearly articulate that they plan to hire an individual, a director of teacher and learning, with high school experience, who will complement the skill set of the executive director and provide the academic oversight of the school. We were pleased to see that the governing board deeply understood that their first primary mission was to be a strong high school offering that brought a nursing focus. Additionally, we discussed extensively the financial oversight plans for the school, with the executive director planning to hire a business manager to manage the day-to-day financial oversight. Additionally, the governing board demonstrated clear understanding of their fiduciary responsibilities. And it is this team plus the governing board that gives me great confidence on the oversight and monitoring of the financials of the school. Additionally, while not required, there was a clear facility plan in place. The sponsor has already submitted a letter of intent. They have already engaged with an architect to determine necessary renovations to be successful for fall of 2025. And I also want to note that the sponsor has a very strong financial plan with significant financial commitments from Bloomberg Philanthropies and the Charter School Program Fund. And while with any opening of any charter school, financial viability and enrollment is always something that we look into very extensively, it is through these strong financial plans and these philanthropic grants that we have strong probability of success in opening this charter school. Additionally, we were very impressed by the community support for this school. So not only within the healthcare community, but also evidenced through the public comments, participation in public hearings, and the outreach that the applicant has already done within the community. As I noted earlier, Nashville is a healthcare economic center, and we have all seen the news articles and the drastic pleas from our healthcare community for more nurses to enter the workforce. This proposed school is a strong model. It is backed by success of 2 other schools operating within the U.S., and it directly addresses a key shortage in the healthcare profession. I believe the existence of nurses in Nashville will only complement the other academic programs already offered in our surrounding schools, and I believe it would be a missed opportunity for students in Nashville if this school were not open and given the opportunity to open and operate. And it is based on the totality of this information and those in the record that I recommend the commission approve Nurses Middle College Nashville. And at this time, I'm happy to take any questions.
Anyone who has any questions for Tess? Commissioner Carter? You beat the... Age before beauty. Commissioner Griscom.
He hit that right on the mark.
And we're the same age, so yeah, I'm telling the story.
Tess, so this is, I would hope that as they look at this, and from my previous experience on the Tennessee Board of Regents, that maybe there's opportunities here for dual enrollment, so that the students who, if this school is approved, who are at this charter school have an opportunity to gain additional credit toward an advanced degree. So I would hope that that's something that, knowing they're in the audience and they're hearing this, that they look at as a next step going forward, so that these students really do have the opportunity at the, at this level to gain additional experience and additional credentials to carry them on. I just think it's kind of interesting, to, in your report, the other 2 schools that are out there that have done this, so you've got that model to work from. And I also appreciated learning more about the credentials of the speaker who spoke to us today. That was very impressive. Thank you.
Commissioner Carter?
Thank you, gorgeous. I'm older than he is, I think, so it really is. Tess, a couple of questions. One is that, again, I'm trying to understand the organizational structure. You know, it's great that we've got significant funding of close to $20 million from Bloomberg, and I think that's over a 3-year period. But at the end of the day, who owns you? I mean, is this a CMO that, in fact, again, is going to be operating here, or is this from New York, Rhode Island? Please provide a response. Oh.
Thank you for that question. So it is a Tennessee-based governing board that is contracting with a charter management organization that is located in Rhode Island, but the staff would be physically located here in the Nashville area. And so the school leadership would be located here in Nashville, and they would receive some of their support and overall kind of academic model from the CMO located in Rhode Island.
So to that end, is this for-profit, not-for-profit?
It is non-for-profit. For-profit, to contract with a for-profit entity is not allowed in statute by Tennessee.
Commissioner Lauren Smith?
First, a quick comment. I'm just really happy to see such an innovative model. We don't have anything like it in Nashville. I think it's just really exciting to see innovation in such a unique model. One question. Obviously, some people are going to get in the program to decide nursing's not for them. Could you talk a little bit about, I know MNPS referenced that earlier, what does that look like? Can they stay at the school? Must they leave the school?
So 2 points that we discussed throughout our process on that matter. Number one, they built in a level of attrition within their budget and when their enrollment patterns based on what they see at their other schools, that there are students who enter the program and decide that nursing is not necessarily for them or the school is not for them. And so number one, I appreciated the acknowledgement of attrition. Secondly, we ask how on the front end, students would deeply understand the type of program that they were enrolling in. And so while they would be held to the same enrollment and lottery process that any other charter school would be in, that the school spoke to having very intentional conversations with parents and families and students on the front end before they accept their placement to confirm and have an understanding of what the model is, and also have an understanding of what, if they enroll in their school, the nursing focus would be. I think we also acknowledge that even if you decide that you do not want to be a nurse at the end of the high school program, you're still receiving a rigorous high school process that is meeting all graduation requirements that would set you up to attend any post-secondary institution that you would be interested in, even if it's not directly in the nursing profession.
Commissioner Eddie Smith?
Thank you. And, you know, a couple of things. One, I want to applaud the applicant because I do believe this is a very unique way of looking at a charter school to meet a specific need, especially in our state. And the statement I'm about to make, I hope the gentleman from MNPS does not take it as a slight against him. I know he's reading off of a script. But the argument that this is duplicative falls on deaf ears when you also say that it's unique. Something cannot be both unique and a duplicate at the same time. It's a double negative. So, you know, that being said, you know, I think that NPS is trying to come up with reasons for just denying things rather than actually having solid arguments. This is something that I believe is deeply needed in our state. It's needed in our communities. And I love the innovative approach that they have brought, looking at not trying to be everything to everyone, but a very unique niche opportunity to help kids in education stay engaged so that they don't drop out, they don't get frustrated with school, and gives them a career and a path, especially as what we're seeing with the devastations that just happened over in East Tennessee. I know Commissioner Levine can't be here because of just what we're seeing in just the hospital devastation, family devastation. My wife was up in that area just a few weeks ago, just taking supplies for makeshift clinics. They could not find some of the nurses from some of the hospitals to get them to help people because roads and everything. So there is severe shortage of nurses already, and then you add catastrophes and disasters on top of it, like we've seen the last couple of weeks. So I think it's something that is very unique, something that will help set apart, and it will be a great addition to the Metro Nashville area in this school. So I look forward to voting in line with your recommendation to overturn MNPS.
Commissioner Woodson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to pile on to the accolades, I want to compliment the teams of people who've come together on this application, and for the folks who are here today. This is an example of folks doing everything right. Academic model, support in the community, engagement at multiple levels. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this school develops, and just appreciate everyone coming together to make this bet on Nashville and Nashville families.
Commissioner Tudor.
Yeah, just two quick comments. I think one professional, one personal. I appreciate that MNPS offers a lot of innovative option for parents. But to go back to our statutory mandate, that's not really at issue here. There's a 2-element test. One, do they check the box on the rubric, the 3 sections? And then, does it serve the best interests of the students, the LEA, or the community? The fact that there are potentially other competitive options out there, it's not really part of that analysis. It is a healthy thing. I think it's a good thing. So just, when MNPS in the future is analyzing this, I think a recognition that that is the test that we are required to apply. That may be constructive. And then on a personal note, I'm the son of 2 nurses, an RN, a CRNA. This is why we're here. This is a slam dunk. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to add the importance of hiring a director of teaching and learning was not lost on me as a part of your recommendation, Tess. I think this is a wonderful program. There's obviously a tremendous background in nursing, but it is important to have that position filled with somebody who is familiar with the rigors and requirements of Tennessee's requirements with respect to operating a high school and making sure that gets done. So since y'all are sitting here, I'm going to just make sure y'all heard that that's very important. I also do think that having attended the hearing, the young people who spoke and talked about having graduated from MNPS high schools, wanting to start immediately into a 4-year college program in nursing and finding themselves having to take remedial classes to be to the point where they could start their nursing program at the college level was very compelling to me, because I am confident that this group can make sure that whether the students ultimately matriculate in nursing for a 4-year degree or can take some dual enrollment things while they're in high school and be prepared to have already had some of those beginning years of school, post-high school completed. The one thing that you will do is you will be preparing students who will be ready to go to college in whatever their given field is. And I think that's an important thing for a charter to do. So thank you. And I don't see any other comments, so we're going to call this matter for action. Do I have a motion to overturn the... Okay. Second. All right. Hayden, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Carter. Aye. Commissioner Griscom. Aye. Commissioner Patterson. Aye. Commissioner Eddie Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Lauren Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Tudor.
Aye.
Commissioner Woodson.
Aye.
Chair Richards.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our final appeal, which is from Wooddale Middle School. Hayden, can you please read any statements or introduce any representatives that we have here today to speak on this matter?
Memphis Shelby County Schools submitted the following statement. Dear members of the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission, Memphis Shelby County Schools, MSCS, would like to begin by recognizing the thorough planning and execution of the Tennessee Public Charter Commission staff and commission members throughout a robust appellate cycle, while also engaging in the commission's regular authorizing duties. MSCS appreciates the commitment of the team to upholding the Tennessee Quality Charter authorizing standards and ensuring transparent practices throughout the process. MSCS believes in transparent standards for our charter schools based on the Tennessee Quality Charter authorizing standards. As an authorizer, we use this as our rubric to ensure consistency and equality in meeting the appropriate standards for approval and authorization. The appellate cycle and the recommendation from the review team affirm our standard of review to ensure a fair and rigorous process for all our applicants. As an authorizer, MSCS wants to ensure that these fair practices are implemented for strong outcomes in our communities. Principle 1 of the Tennessee Quality Authorizing Standards states, a quality authorizer sets high but attainable standards for approving charter applicants. Standard 2 states that a quality authorizer grants charters only to applicants who demonstrate strong capacity to establish and operate a quality charter school. The rigorous review and approval are based on the Tennessee Department of Education's application and rubric, in which the applicant must meet or exceed standards in each of the required sections. In following the TDOE scoring rubric, MSCS determined that Wooddale Middle School provided insufficient evidence of capacity in all sections: academic, operations, finance, and portfolio review and performance record, thus only partially meeting the standard for approval. Additionally, as noted in the Executive Director's report, the independent review team also similarly scored the application as partially meeting the standard in all areas except finance, which was deemed as meeting the standard. While we respect the recommendation of the Executive Director, we disagree. Wooddale Middle School has been a part of the Achievement School District for a full term with inconsistent academic performance. The Achievement School District was designed to serve as an intervention to students and the community. At this time, Wooddale Middle and much of the network has not demonstrated long-term success as a high-performing school. As an authorizer, it is MSCS's responsibility to ensure that the plan articulated in the proposed charter schools application can be executed to fidelity to provide strong outcomes for students. In the case of Wooddale Middle, the application partially meets standard in all sections, and the school is not positioned to open successfully as a charter seeking authorization by the home LEA. Memphis Shelby County Schools appreciates the Commission's time and respectfully requests that the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission overturn the Executive Director's recommendation and affirm the Shelby County Board of Education's decision to deny the charter application for Wooddale Middle School. Sincerely, Arlandra Parker, Director, Charter School Development. And now, on behalf of Wooddale Middle School, we have Chad Everett.
Good afternoon and greetings to each of the commissioners. I'm Chad Everett. I am the Chief Operations Officer for Iowa Community Schools. On behalf of our Executive Director and our Executive Leadership Team, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to participate in the appeal process. And we are aware that there's much work still to be done at Wooddale Middle School and the Parkway Village community, and are hopeful that you will provide IOTA with the opportunity to continue to do that work. As Executive Director Stovall highlighted in her earlier comments, the question is not Wooddale Middle School or not Wooddale Middle School. Those students will remain in that community and they will attend a school. The question before the commission today is who is best suited to serve as the operator of Wooddale Middle School. The current leadership team has worked to ensure that Wooddale achieve the goal of the Achievement School District, moving schools from the bottom 5% of those in the state. Wooddale has earned TBOS Level 5 status over the last 2 years and received priority exit status. We've enjoyed our partnership with the commission and with commissioner staff at Bluff City High School and understand the standard of excellence that is set and expected by each of the commissioners. Commissioner Richards, there was a statement I believe that you and Commissioner Griscom made when I first entered into the network about we want to be a high quality authorizer. There's the expectation of every school in our portfolio. What I appreciate of this body is that you have always balanced high quality with the understanding of what high quality and turnaround work, that those two are not mutually exclusive, but that you have to consider that when you're evaluating a school and the work that happens in those schools. And so we humbly ask that that each commissioner affirm the decision of the 500+ families that choose Iota Community Schools as the operator of Wooddale Middle School each and every day, and affirm the decision of the executive director to overturn the decision of Memphis Shelby County Schools to allow Iota Community Schools to continue to operate the building. I say again, the question is not Wooddale Middle School or no Wooddale Middle School. The question is who is best suited to serve as the operator of Wooddale Middle School. TVOS Level 5 status over the last 2 years. That's the building that students at Wooddale have gotten to sit in. Had they been at other surrounding schools in Memphis Shelby County Schools, here's what they would have attended. American Way Middle School, TVOS of 1. Hickory Ridge Middle School, TVOS of 1. Highland Oaks Middle School, TVOS of 1. Oak Haven Middle School, TVOS of 1. Ridgeway Middle School, TVOS of 1. Excuse me, I misstated. The state of Tennessee rolled out letter grades to help families be able to identify the quality of the school that they attended. They would have attended F schools had they attended those other schools that I just named. So for each of you, as you think about the students of Wooddale Middle School and those in your families and the decisions that you have to make, I hope that you would also weigh out, based on those grades, where would you enroll your students and who would you entrust the students of Wooddale Middle School to? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now recognize Executive Director Tess Stovall.
Thank you, Chair Richards. The final appeal that we have before us here this afternoon is undoubtedly the most complex and challenging one that we have had today. This appeal is for Wooddale Middle School. It is a charter school that is operating within the Achievement School District. It is proposing to continue operating under Iota Community Schools in the Parkway Village area of Memphis for the next 10 years. The application was denied by the Memphis Shelby Board of Education in July of 2024. The current charter agreement for Wooddale Middle School expires June 30th of 2025. In accordance with statute, at the end of the charter term, an applicant within the ASD must either decide to relinquish their charter or apply to the local district for a new 10-year charter agreement. The applicant, Iota Community Schools, is requesting the new 10-year charter agreement from the Commission. As we discussed earlier, if the Commission does not grant this agreement, the school and the students will transfer back to the jurisdiction of Memphis Shelby County Schools at the end of this academic year. As a reminder, the Commission has heard several of these applications in the past, including 2 last year, one for Fairleigh High School in which the Commission denied that agreement, and one for Cornerstone Prep Leicester in which the Commission approved that application. So based on the Commission's process and significant due diligence and review of the record, I have determined that the amended application does rise to the level of meeting or exceeding the standard, and that the application would be in the best interest of the students, the LEA, or the community. However, I do not make this recommendation and this determination without acknowledgement of the concerns and challenges that still exist for Wooddale and would exist in a new charter agreement that the Commission must consider in its deliberations. So first, the applicant's academic plan. Iota has been operating Wooddale for the last 10 years. It is important to note that the majority of those 10 years, they were operated by Green Dot Public Schools, Tennessee. And within the last year, Iota has formed a local charter management organization called Iota Schools that now runs their school, Wooddale, as well as the other schools within the network. The board itself and the staff within the network have majority remained the same between those two entities. When we look at the totality of the academic data under this operation within the ASD, it is mixed. There is no doubt about it. However, I must acknowledge that within the last 2 years, the school has achieved priority exit status, meaning they have exited the priority school list. They earned a letter grade of a C based on 22-23 year school data. And in the last 2 years, they have earned a TVOS school level composite of 5. When we looked at the surrounding school data, we determined that the school does generally outperform the other zone schools in the area. As was stated and confirmed in our data analysis, there are other zone schools, middle schools in the area that received a letter grade of an F and a TVOS of a 1. Though looking at the totality of the academic data, there are still substantial areas that are important to focus on, in particularly growing student academic achievement. However, I believe that Wooddale is providing a higher quality option for students in the Parkway Village area of Memphis. Operationally, IOTA has demonstrated a commitment to strong operations. Since the submission of the amended application, we have seen them successfully transition to a local charter operator. They have added new board members to build out necessary experience. And as stated in the public hearing via questioning from me to the governing board chair, articulated a clear vision for the future of the school and the network. Financially, IOTA is currently sustainable and has sufficient cash reserves. We know that enrollment is a driver of a charter school's financial and operational viability, and IOTA understands this in particular, and will need to understand that this is a primary focus for this organization in the long term. And when looking at the academic performance data, as I discussed in the financial reports and the public testimony, I did find that Wooddale met or exceeded the application standard, and I do believe, and that is my recommendation for approval. However, I do want to note some challenges that Wooddale will face should the commission approve it for a new charter term, and that you all as commissioners need to consider and deliberate on in this decision. First, IOTA is a network that the commission knows well. One of its schools, Bluff City High School, has been with the commission and is currently on charter probation since 2022 for failure to meet academic performance challenges. The commission has noted on the record over multiple meetings that we remain concerned about the long-term academic trajectory of Bluff City High School. We have seen some indicators of positive progress in the last school year for 2023-24, but I want to note that if Wooddale is approved and moves into the commission's portfolio, the commission is committing to support another school within the IOTA network that still needs a continued academic improvement. Second, the IOTA network is facing an uphill and significant changes when it comes to the other schools in its portfolio. So beyond Wooddale, IOTA has 2 other schools within the Achievement School District whose charter agreements end in the 25-26 school year. And Bluff City High School is up for renewal in the 26-27 school year. So depending on the outcomes of the 2 schools within the Achievement School District and Bluff City High School when it comes up for renewal, it is likely that the IOTA network will see additional changes in terms of size and structure. And the commission must consider whether IOTA has the capacity and the resources to effectively manage through these shifts in terms of size and structure while still maintaining a focus on student achievement. Third, the operator must sustain the initial academic progress that we've seen over the last 2 years and remain a higher quality option than the surrounding middle schools. While we have seen signs of academic improvement at Wooddale, there are academic indicators that remain a concern. The chronic absenteeism rate is significantly higher at Wooddale than it is of other zone schools. And reducing this rate in particular must be a priority if the academic growth will continue. And finally, and potentially most significantly, is the challenge around the facility. So if a school operates within the Achievement School District, is approved for a new charter agreement through the New Start process, statute does not give the operator any rights to the building beyond the end of the charter agreement. Therefore, the operator will have to negotiate with Memphis Shelby County to determine if the school district is interested in allowing the operator to lease or buy the facility. And if no agreement is made, Wooddale could be forced to vacate the district facility as of June 30th, 2025. This is a significant challenge that the operator will face if they are approved for a new charter agreement, and there is limited time to figure out the facility plan. And also, if they do have to move, where that move goes to and how do you sustain enrollment. For all those reasons and all those concerns I named, I come back to, do I think that Wooddale Middle School is providing a better quality option for students in the Parkway Village community? And the answer is yes, I do. And that is why, even with these reservations and challenges, that I recommend the commission approve the amended application for Wooddale. And I will turn it back over to Chair Richards for questions and deliberation.
Do we have any questions for Tess, Commissioner Patterson?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Tess, for your comments. I think I do have two questions, but I also have comment, so I don't know, I can make them all together. Okay. I'll ask the two questions first and then provide comment. Can you just give us some more color on where the potential facility situation would stand? Has there been any preliminary negotiation with respect to MSCS and IOTA?
So we asked, and I will have Beth pull up the letter that we got from them, because we went back after the public hearing to specify and want a better understanding of where things sat with the facility. So the operator confirmed, and also Memphis Shelby County confirmed, that there has been no communication between either party about the facility at this point in time. The operator did lay out two facility options, that other facility options should Wooddale not be available. And they provided that in a statement, that they feel confident that if Memphis Shelby County is not able to reach a lease or sale agreement for them, that they feel like those are realistic facility options. Do you have that? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and my second question is somewhat related. Has there been a contingency baked into their budget for a potential cost if they do not get the facility at the current rate, which is 0?
Yeah, so I think number one, we felt very confident with their overall financial plan, and that they do have sufficient reserves currently to manage the facility costs and increase in the facility costs. I think the great unknown for them is the overall sustainability of the network should one or two schools end up transitioning back to the district, should enrollment decline, if they have additional facility costs beyond what was outlined. That is the big unknown. But for right now, we felt very comfortable with the financial plan as it is and their ability to absorb additional costs. And I'll turn it over to Beth to high level talk about the two facility options.
Thank you. Thank you, Tess. So included in the request for additional information, Wooddale or Iota Community Schools was able to provide us with two viable facility options that they have identified that could potentially house them next school year, that would require minimal renovations and meet the timeline. The spaces are available, and they outline everything from what would be required renovation, parking, square footage, and they were able to demonstrate that they were viable options should they have to vacate the facility.
So that leads me to my comments, and I've said this before, and I just want to, passionately remind my fellow commissioners that when we look at the ASD transition schools, they must be viewed in a slightly nuanced way, in a different way from our Fresh Start and our New Start schools. especially in communities in Memphis where, as I believe Mr. Everett mentioned, I know Tess mentioned, and the report mentioned, the alternative for these students would almost be negligent of us. We have a C school with level 5 growth, and the alternative for these students are not just F schools with level 1 growth, but single-digit proficiencies. And to even consider giving the option of running the school back to a district that has 4 neighboring schools with single-digit proficiency, I would almost view as negligent. And on top of just the proficiency, I do think it's important to note that there are some options available for students. But when we talk about options for students in Parkway Village and Oak Haven and Hickory Hill, there are 2 B schools. One of those B schools only has 5 seats available. There's a C school, and by the way, those 3 schools are charter schools in that community. The other one has less than 20 seats available. And Wooddale is serving about 450 students. So this isn't a question of us taking away or denying these students a better option. There just aren't enough seats available to satisfy the needs of that community. So I think that's where I want to start. And I just want to remind, again, my fellow commissioners that are not from our Grand Division of what the picture is in Memphis, especially in a community like this. So don't just look at this on its face as 13% proficiency or 12% proficiency, because as Tess says, certainly those are unacceptable, and I know that the team is working hard, but the alternative is even worse. I did get a chance to observe the public hearing as well as the capacity interview, and I do want to note again for my commissioners, I feel a great sense of confidence in the local leadership team, in particular their CFO. It just struck me not only the internal team speaking highly of his expertise, but also external members in the community speaking very highly of his capacity, not only to manage fiscally, but also to hold the team accountable. And I think that's very important, especially given Tess's comment about the potential fluctuation with schools in their portfolio. And that relates to Memphis's success with local CMOs. I know in many cities across the country, there are national CMOs that parachute in and they readily leave. But Memphis has a wonderful track record of local CMOs, such as Gestalt, such as Freedom Prep, such as Journey, such as Compass, where when there is more local understanding and local leadership, charter management organizations have thrived. So I feel more confident that Green Dot is no longer and IOTA is now here to provide more local leadership and local context for these students. But I think my first point is not just words on a page. I mean, this is for the students in Memphis, and this is for those students in Parkway Village, in Oak Haven, in Hickory Hill. This is their best option today. And I know that our team will hold them accountable going forward, and we will hold them accountable. But in my mind, those other options would truly be negligent.
Commissioner Addie Smith.
First, I'd like to just move that Terrence has to speak last from now on so that none of us have to follow. A couple of things. One, thank you, Terrence, for all of that information. I too watched the interview where we had both Metro Shelby County as well as Wooddale. And one of the things that concerned me, and I'm going to go backwards on my list, is around the facility and the fact that they have not proactively sought to engage Shelby County schools. I actually emailed Tess some questions around this because I wanted to know, did they actually reach out? And they have not. We confirmed that they have not in any way. But even if they had, one of the statements that was made in that public hearing is that they needed to start with facility services. But if you actually go to Shelby County's website, it says they need to start with the charter school office. On the website of Metro Shelby County is a different person who's no longer with them to email to actually get the ball rolling. So even Shelby County's processes are vastly out of date for even knowing where to start. So it's a double whammy. Shelby County needs to fix some stuff, and I believe that Wooddale needs to step up, especially on the facility, something you brought up. And to Terrence's point, one of the things that I want to make sure is abundantly clear. We can say that the schools around you are not doing any better. That is not our bar. Our bar is not the schools around you. We've set a different bar that we expect you to meet for the betterment of these kids. It is not looking at what's around you and saying we're better. It's, are you meeting what the commission has said in our vision? Just 3 months ago when we all met, we worked on collectively, what are we wanting to see? And setting that vision for the commission for the next 5 years. So our vision is a much higher bar than what even is in the current local. So just realize we're going to hold you to that. But because this is now the third one of these that we've done, I want to also say nothing I can do about it except say it. This is where I wish that not just us, but even the local school districts had some different tools in the tool belt. A 10-year charter agreement feels too big, considering that we've only seen 2 years of positive upward trajectory. I wish we had something in the interim to offer, a 3-year that could eventually become the 7 years, something in that middle ground so that we could say that, yes, they knew they were coming up for having to be renewed. So was this last 2 years a result of that? Or is this actually the trajectory they're now going to be on going forward? So again, we can't do anything about that except ask Hayden here to carry this back to the legislature in his armor that he has to put on before going over. So that's the biggest thing that I wish that we had just more tools in our tool belt to use on instances like this rather than just a 10-year, here you go agreement. But to Commissioner Patterson's point, I do believe that closing this and sending those schools back is negligent for the kids. It's not in the best interest of the children in that community, nor will it be what's in the best interest of that community in the long term.
Commissioner Carter.
One of the things I think that you've got to look at it is that when we're having conversations like this is, all politics are local. And what resonates with me is the issue in terms of those who are on the ground who really know, again, what's going on. It's important to listen to their words. It's important to hear about their passion. I really do trust the process, and I trust my fellow commissioners who really know a lot about what's going on within their own jurisdictions more so than I do, who resides here. And so this is in some ways beyond the issue of data. And Terrence, to your point, this issue of negligence, really, it is what it is. And so that issue in terms of alternative, to look at saying, okay, if we don't agree, okay, with, again, our executive director's position, and we say no, again, what's that option? It's not a good one, and it is a form of negligence. I've got a question, though. At the end of the day, as I'm listening, and you've heard me talk about commissioners, leadership's everything. I want to know about the leadership. So to that end, Tess, I'm putting you on the spot to talk about who are the people, not only in terms of the board, but also the leadership piece, because that means a lot from the standpoint of, again, being able to really move the ball forward and get the ball in the sense of the finish line. There were some statistics that I read today about charter schools. Within 5 years, 25% of charter schools don't make it. What's more telling is that within 20 years, 55% have failed. So that issue of longevity, that issue of having leadership that has the focus and the vision, and it's going to pay the ultimate price to make sure that we survive, is just really critical. So again, the issue of that I'm asking Tess is, tell me about who the people are that, in fact, again, are really, in fact, having some challenges beyond belief in terms of dealing with not only the demographics of the clientele, more critically, they're in a tough environment where, again, safety is a factor, the issue of trying to look at uplifting folks, again, from some very challenging family, household scenarios. It ain't easy. This is not Brentwood, okay, where, again, the demographics, the opportunities are much different than, in fact, what you might face in terms of, again, this particular area. So I want to know who these people are that, in fact, make up the board in terms of their leadership and their experience base, as well as the people with the senior staff folks. Your thoughts on those people?
So I'll start with the board, and because one of the pieces that we wanted to dig into, particularly at the public hearing, was the board's understanding of the network, the challenges ahead. And the board members have, for the most part, been with IOTA for several years. So number one, I think we were impressed that they stayed with the transition and supported the transition. Additionally, they have brought back a former board chair who had left under Green Dot Tennessee, is now rejoining under IOTA with financial expertise, who I have personally met with and had many a conversation with. So to me, from that perspective, understanding the gaps, building the expertise on the board to continue the work. I would also say from the network staff perspective, many of the members of the network team I have personally worked with for 5, 6, 7 years. And so we have worked with them on good times and not so great times, and particularly around the charter probation with Bluff City. We have had extensive work with their team, and we have seen differences in academic outcomes in the last 2 years with the current network staff. And so that gives me great hope that those same level of academic outcomes can continue because the people at the network are there. One of the things that I think is a challenge is the school level leadership is new. And I noted in my report, there's been turnover at the teacher level, and that is something that all schools have to figure out is how do you maintain a strong school leader? How do you maintain strong staff? Because if you don't have this, strong staff, you don't have a strong leader, then you're never going to sustain the gains. However, because the same network staff are still here and are working with the schools, that gives me great confidence about the future work with IOTA. Additionally, we ran their data against the commission's performance framework, and they meet the standard of our performance framework because we value TVOS growth and we value how they compare to the resident district, and we value their letter grade. And those things combined, when we ran that data and I saw they met the standard, I thought to myself, there's no way in good conscience that I can recommend denial. Because if that's the standard we have set up for our schools, then why would we say no to a school even though it has challenges ahead? So for me personally, I know that wasn't your direct question, but it was brought up earlier. I felt like I needed to say that when we ran the data, I thought to myself, well, we've set up this is how we hold all of our schools accountable, and this feels like a school that if they would be in our portfolio, they would be meeting the standard, and therefore we should at least give them a shot.
Commissioner Lauren Smith.
Thank you. First, I do want to applaud the applicant for 2 years of growth. I think it's really impressive what we've seen, but I have some very serious concerns about a lot of things that are out of their control in the coming year. So first, they'll become an open enrollment school, right? So that could be a net positive, could be a negative, but that is a big change. Just the CMO as a whole could shrink, could change. That worries me. And then the facility issue really worries me. So I think all of those together are just giving me some pretty major concerns about will the growth they've made be sustainable if there's a pretty big shakeup, really in any of those areas. So those are the things I'm wrestling with quite a bit, and I guess would be happy to hear any feedback or open it up to, any feedback you guys have. But I'm really struggling with just, is this going to be sustainable if there's a massive change to the organization?
Any other comments or thoughts? All right, I have just a few. I went through this whole record and looked very carefully at what information was available about what would be the commitment of Memphis-Shelby County Schools to this school if it was returned to them. As Commissioner Patterson wisely said, when a school has come out of a district going into the ASD, it was not in a good spot to have earned that status. And the ASD has had, at best, mixed results, but certainly has been a challenge as far as providing support for the schools under the ASD. But one of the things that troubled me the most about this is that Memphis-Shelby County Schools are going through a new superintendent and a period of tremendous transition. And being one of the commissioners from the Memphis area, it's very painfully apparent that they're trying to figure out how they can improve the performance of the schools that they have responsibility for. They're taking it seriously, but there's very few specifics to be found anywhere, and there are none in this entire process that they have offered as to what they're going to do for support. Prior to the new administration, they had an innovation program that offered additional resources and support, some of which are consistent with the things that are already being provided at Wooddale by the IOLTA people. But there's no such commitment in any of this paperwork that they would continue to provide that support. And in that community, that kind of support makes a difference between whether kids can get to school or not. They need to do better on their chronic absenteeism, but that is an incredibly challenging neighborhood with a lot of turnover. And the kids that they are getting out of the elementary schools are often far behind where they should be. So I'm really troubled. I was hoping that Memphis-Shelby County Schools would step up and explain. They have a new 3-tier program, but they haven't said what any of that means. And for the kids in schools that are not performing, there hasn't been any clear indication of what they're going to do. So not only are we facing what Commissioner Patterson so aptly pointed out, we're facing great uncertainty from the support from the local district, and that bothers me a lot. The facility problem really worries me. They have announced they're going to go through another review of which buildings they're going to keep and close, completely separate from anything that's going on at Wooddale. There's a great deal of uncertainty about facilities in Memphis-Shelby County Schools right now, and that is going to be a very difficult situation to work through. But as Commissioner Smith noted, I noted that if you went on their website, there's no way to figure out who you should talk to in the Memphis-Shelby County Schools. It doesn't mean that Wooddale shouldn't have gotten it done, but it is troubling to me. So I think this is one of those, it's a hard call. I know that in your conversations with them, we've been talking about chronic absenteeism because at Bluff City, that's been one of their biggest problems. And while they've made progress at Bluff City, it's not what it needs to be. And this school is worse on chronic absenteeism than neighboring schools, and that bothers me a lot. But that being said, I'm going to vote to overturn the decision of Memphis-Shelby County School because I like Terrence. I can't in good conscience send these kids back to those other schools. Are there other comments or thoughts? Yes, Commissioner Patterson.
I just wanted to check my recollection before I made this statement, but 3 out of those 4 school options that those students would go to were on the original priority list in 2012. And so the fact that Wooddale has come off of that priority list and we still see those same 3 schools still in single digits also speaks volumes to how we should think about this decision.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion. I'm sorry, did you want to talk? Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to overturn the denial of the Wooddale Middle School application. Okay. All right. Hayden, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Carter. Aye. Commissioner Griscom. Aye. Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Eddie Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Lauren Smith. No. Commissioner Tudor.
Aye.
Commissioner Woodson. Aye. Chair Richards.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. That completes our appeals hearings that we're going to complete today. The other 2 hearings will be starting tomorrow morning at 8:30, and I understand that the people who asked to speak as a part of the public comments are relating to those, so we will give them an opportunity to speak tomorrow morning, and they're acceptable with that, so that's how we're going to handle that. It's right at 3 o'clock. I would like to, if we can, take up a couple of the other agenda items that are on the agenda for tomorrow, particularly the committee reports. So maybe we can get those done and have a little shorter agenda for tomorrow, if that's okay.
Make a motion to.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Well, let's move on to the committee reports. I think starting with business operations. So, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Business Operations Committee, we heard
Beauty helping you.
Thank you, Beauty. Let me start again. So again, thank you, Madam Chair. In the Business Operation Committee, we heard an operations update and budget updates. I'd like to recognize Melanie Harrell for these updates. Melanie?
Thank you, Chair Carter. Excited to provide this update today. First, we went over an update on the FY25 budget to actuals at our committee meeting. I think one thing that I want to highlight for the full commission is that we have seen a slight decrease in our enrollment from what was budgeted. So our budgeted enrollment was about 1.5% higher than where it was currently as of the time of the committee meeting. Whether or not this will ultimately result in any material change in our budget is going to depend on the revenue true-up information. I had really hoped that we would have that information for all of our schools by this meeting. Unfortunately, we do not. We are waiting for one of our geographic LEAs to complete their final expenditure report and have that approved by the TDOE. What I can tell everybody by way of an update is that we did receive some preliminary information from Memphis-Shelby County Schools yesterday. Their revenue was up actually quite a bit compared to what was budgeted for last year. That doesn't necessarily mean we have information about what will be in their budget for this year, but what I can say is that while we don't have the final calculation of amounts owed between the 2 districts yet, we are anticipating a pretty hefty revenue true-up with Memphis-Shelby County Schools. So we'll provide an update on that to the committee in an email at the end of this month. Again, I'm very much hoping that we will have more information from Metro Nashville Public Schools as well as some additional information from Rutherford County Schools, but we will keep an eye on those projections moving forward. In In terms of our grant updates for the year, we are administering at least $7 million in grants. We have slightly fewer grants this year with the phasing out of COVID relief funding. So I believe we are processing our very last ESSER claim as of this morning. Gomer sent that. So we are putting some of those grants behind us, but we do have additional school improvement grant funding this year. That is something that comes to support our ASD transition schools that achieve priority exit status or are still in some way in that turnaround process. So we will continue administering some of those school improvement grants for those schools this year and have some additional funding there. We have also had our FY25 consolidated funding application initially approved. As of yesterday, we pulled new data to be able to run the required funding true-ups for federal funds for our new and expanding schools. So I'll be sharing a little bit of an update with the Business Operations Committee as well as with the full commission once we have updated allocations from the department and we see where our schools shake out in terms of updates to their fundings and funding methodology. Lastly, I just want to highlight that we have submitted our FY26 budget request to Finance and Administration. We had a meeting with them about that a few weeks ago now. So we have requested 2 positions to support our district functions primarily. I think there's still more votes to come, but it looks like our portfolio will continue to grow based on this meeting so far. So I think preliminarily we'll need to see where things shake out, but for those positions, we are thinking of ideally somebody to support some additional support on academic initiatives, some programmatic compliance, as well as we see a need to enhance, particularly as we grow, our ability to support diverse communities, different communities, engage with parents across the state. So adding some capacity to the team there. But I know we will be taking a hard look at our district work streams over the next 12 and 18 months to see how to deploy those positions most effectively. But we will hope that it gets included in the governor's proposed budget and that it is ultimately approved by the legislature. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
And this is not anything for Melanie, just because we're now in the committee reports. I do want to acknowledge that this weekend is a huge game, and we do have a trader that sits at the desk every year about this time. So I do believe that it would be appropriate for the Business Operations Committee to ask Trent to lead us in a good rendition of Rocky Top.
Well done. Commissioner Carter, do you have more? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the School Performance and Accountability Committee. Commissioner Patterson.
Thank you, Chair Richards. The committee heard updates on the 24-25 school year, and I'd like to recognize Deputy Director of Authorizing Maggie Lund for these updates.
Thank you, Commissioner Patterson. At the SPA committee meeting, we shared the school year 24-25 preview and enrollment trends across the portfolio of schools. We talked about the enrollment true-up process, talked about projected enrollment to actual enrollment for all open and operating schools within our portfolio. Additionally, the team provided an update on special populations. We highlighted that the student supports team has been working closely with our schools in August and September to complete compliance requirements, and reiterated that the addition of our coordinator for English language learners has been very viable and valuable in our work for this. We've also provided updates on teacher licensure, seeing positive trends across our portfolio and smaller numbers of teachers teaching out of endorsements. We review this monthly and work with our schools to address this. We offered an update on the authorizer evaluation as well. Our authorizing team has been very hard at work completing this, and a draft report with a rating will be provided at the January 2025 meeting. The Commission received 4 letters of intent for amendments to charter agreements, which will be considered by Commissioners at either the special called meeting in December or at the January 2025 commission meeting. And as a reminder, amendment petitions require a discussion by the SPA committee meeting at the SPA committee before action is taken at the whole meeting. The authorizing team also provided updates regarding schools going through the renewal process. We have public hearings coming up for the 3 schools that are under the renewal process currently in November. And as a reminder, that decision will also take place at the January 2025 meeting. We provided updates regarding the interventions taking place for Promise Academy, Spring Hill, and Bluff City High School, noting promising progress. And then finally, commission staff and commissioners have identified a new area of focus for more regular communication with governing board chairs and governing boards at large. And so going forward, we'll be meeting with each governing board annually for all of the schools in our portfolio. I know Tess will be sharing additional updates on the TISA accountability report. That was also talked about at the SPA committee meeting, and I'll take any questions at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Patterson, do you have anything else? You know, the chair is derelict in her duty. The minutes from the last meeting were provided to everyone, and I failed to seek comments and seek approval, so I'm going to rectify my failure. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Do you want to? Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and ask Tess Stovall to give the TISA accountability report. We can get that done and still be done in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, that one we'll do tomorrow.
Thank you, Chair Richards. So the School Performance and Accountability Report Committee discussed the 24-25 draft TISA Accountability Report for the Commission. So I want to give some background and context to this report. It's also available in binders as well. So this accountability report is a new requirement for all districts to complete with the passage of the new funding formula under TISA. And so the 23-24 report was the first year that all districts had to produce this report. It is turned into the Department of Education, and it is then supplied to the General Assembly. And under statute, each district must establish goals that it is going to be tracking year over year, particularly around student achievement, and how they are then using the TISA investment dollars to drive towards those goals. All school districts have to have a goal around 3rd grade reading proficiency, but then the other goals can be established by the district themselves. So with the 24-25 report, districts are required to revisit their goals, reflect on their goals, determine whether or not they met their year 1 benchmarks, and then to discuss what they're going to do moving forward related to the benchmarks for those goals. So the committee walked through each goal. We have not made any changes to the goal statements that you see on page 2. They relate to 3rd grade proficiency. We also have a goal statement around chronic absenteeism. We have a goal statement around 3rd through 8th grade math proficiency and 3rd through 8th grade TCAP ELA proficiency. One thing we noted for the committee was that as we get more high schools online in the next couple of years, we will look to add some goals around end of course exam proficiencies. But right now we have such small in counts that we feel like our data is not reliable enough yet. We have a goal statement around our performance framework and school performance on our performance framework. And then we also have a goal statement around our TBOS composite score. So the committee discussed the report at length. I want to call out a couple of things that we did discuss and things that have been reflected and changed. So first, on the chronic absenteeism goal, Chair Richards requested that we take a more aggressive approach to our targets, such that by year 5 that we're looking at an under 12% chronic absenteeism rate particularly for our K through 8 students. So that has been reflected in this most recent draft review. And again, we truly believe that chronic absenteeism is a driver of academic success. This is something that we evaluate annually on our performance framework. And so we do feel very strongly about having this as a part of our goals. The other point of conversation that we did have was around the 3rd through 8th grade math proficiency, as well as 3rd through 8th grade ELA proficiency, and how our benchmarks would match up to the geographic districts that we are in, as well as the state. So when we looked at the data, we determined that based on our trajectory of growth, if we meet our current benchmarks, the commission will meet or exceed the trajectory of its geographic districts by year 2. So that means if we meet our goals within this next year, our district average will be meeting or exceeding Metro Nashville Public Schools and Memphis Shelby County Schools. We are very close to that as it stands right now. When it comes to the state averages, which do tend to be higher, it would take until year 5 for the commission schools to meet those benchmarks. Overall, you will see that because our district is unique, our reflections and how we use our budgets and the funding we receive from TISA is unique, because we do spiral out 97% of our funding to schools, and schools have the autonomy to implement their budgets based on the statutory requirements. However, we talked extensively within this report that we work very closely with our schools. We hold our schools accountable for their outcomes, and that is how we hold them accountable on their TISA revenue. And lastly, this report does require it to be approved by the local Board of Education. So the commission, it also required stakeholder engagement. So we shared this out with our schools via our newsletter, and we also have discussed it at 2 public meetings to meet those requirements. And with that, I will turn it over to Chair Richards and would ask for a positive motion to approve the report. If there are any questions.
Commissioner Eddie Smith.
There we go. So Tess, first of all, glad to see that there's finally some metrics that they're putting everybody that they're wanting districts to be at. The question I have, and this is just more for, I don't know where we might have it, but I'd love to just over the next couple of months as we look at the January meeting, I'd love to have something simple that's easy, not having to read like a notebook, but from each of our schools, what are they doing in the K through 2 space to ensure that students by 3rd grade, when they're doing the testing, that they're ready for that proficiency. So I'd really love to see what our schools are doing in that K through 2 space to make sure they're measuring it and making sure students are ready for that proficiency. But with that, I will make a motion that we approve this plan as presented to us by our executive director.
Do I have a second? Second. Do we need to do roll call? Okay. All in favor of approving this report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Would you like me to continue with my update, my executive director? Yes, let's do it. So my executive director update today is brief, as we've already covered a number of these items today, but to reiterate, we have received amendment petitions from 4 operators that have petitioned to amend their charter agreement. Those petitions are from Rocket Ship Nashville Northeast Elementary, Rocket Ship Dream Community Prep, Empower at Memphis Career and College Prep, and Invictus Nashville. So at the conclusion of this meeting, we are going to begin reviewing those amendment petitions in alignment with commission rule, and we'll be bringing those recommendations forward at future meetings. We have already held a date and soon a time for our December 2nd virtual meeting. Thank you to those who completed the poll. Drejan is going to be sending you your next calendar invitation shortly to act on those amendment petitions. We will also, as Maggie shared, be holding a special called School Performance and Accountability Committee meeting to hear those petitions before that meeting. Looking forward to 2025, we have our January meeting in Memphis. So Memphis crew, excited to be back down. I did want to give you a preview of what is potentially a robust agenda. So first, we will have the approval of any new charter agreements. Anyone, as our general counsel said, who does not reconcile with the district, we will bring those charter agreements in January. We also have the potential to have any amendment petition appeals. If local districts have received an amendment petition and those are denied, they can appeal to us. We also have the potential to hear charter school renewal appeals from districts. We will be able to share our 23-24 annual report because at that point, the Department of Education will have released all data. That includes TVOS, that includes letter grades. So we will be really excited to dig into that with you all. We have our authorizer fee report that we will review, as well as, and certainly not least, we have 3 renewals that Maggie shared that we will be considering. And then finally, we do still have 3 commissioners whose appointments have expired. They continue to serve until they are told otherwise. So we are waiting to hear from the governor's office about Commissioner Patterson, Commissioner Eddie Smith, and Commissioner Woodson on their appointments and if they will continue or if there will be a new individual reappointed. And we will share what we know when we know it. And anyone who is appointed will go through the confirmation process this spring. And with that, I'm happy to take any further questions.
We haven't decided yet, but if you have a place you'd like to go, I probably can be bribed.
I don't think you should say that.
Over dinner reservations, I'm not going to worry about it. Questions for Tess or? Okay. All right, well, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn till tomorrow morning.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Before we go, excuse me, let me share with fellow commissioners as well as those that are still here. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to serve as a keynote speaker at a summit that was here, which was called Black Minds Matter. And they were really desperate. I don't know what, truly desperate if they called me, but it was really a great summit. This is their 2nd annual summit. And you had founders, you had school leaders, people of color throughout the country. They were here. There were probably 250 people. So here's my charge and here's my ask, very diplomatically, but very humbly, to Tess, to you and to the staff. Reach out to those folks, and I'll facilitate trying to, because I didn't know them, and they reached out to me and knew that I was co-founder of a school back in Detroit and extended an invite for me to speak. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was just, it was just a great experience for me. I got more out of it than the fact that they probably had out of my conversation, although I had them laughing. They were really, people were having them, never mind. But I just think that for that organization, wherever they might hold their next summit, it would be great to look at having, again, a appeal body like ours, LEA, that would look at being part of that 2-day summit. So that, in fact, again, there'd be a conversation that they could have and hear from Tess, whether it's you or some other member of the staff, about what's important, okay, as an appellate body, as a LEA. I think that conversation, in fact, again, would really be beneficial to all parties concerned. And I know they would enjoy and really appreciate that learning experience in terms of assuming that, in fact, that there was that collaboration. So, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for participating. I'm sure they were very glad to have your thoughts. Seriously.
So they said, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I met 40 new friends.
All right. Okay, with that, can we get a motion to adjourn till tomorrow morning at 8:30? Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're done for today. Thank you all for your patience.